I'm really hoping the export to YouTube thing signs up. So, am I getting feedback there? Oh no, there we go. So, welcome to the first ever blab on the Late Late Breakfast Show. And Judy, who I first met at a Late Late Breakfast Show in a dungeon in Euston, just across the road from Work Hubs, which I think that was about 2010. It was
yeah, something like that.
Very,
it's a long old time ago.
It was very early. You know, I had hair there and wasn't married. So Judy, what are you? This is my opening question that I'm very proud of. Is what do you do? And what are you known for? And what do you want to be known for?
What am I known for, and what do I want to be known for? What I noticed is there's a huge echo on the line.
So, let me try my little thing here. I've got a gadget. Is it still echoing?
What I can hear something like a radio running in the background.
How about now?
I can still hear that radio, but the echo is gone.
There's not a. I'm in my co-working space, which is normally. How's that going? I'm turning everything down a little bit.
I'm listening really carefully to the conversation to see if I can work out who it is.
It's Jordan. Can you hear it now?
Okay, cool. Let's do that.
Did you hear him say okay?
Said,
cool.
Okay, cool.
That's really good.
That's
really.
You've got this amazing microphone that I can see that is obviously picking up absolutely everything in the room. Very impressive.
It only gets that bit normally, and I'm wondering if I've got something turned up hugely that I didn't realise.
Yeah, so anyway, to the echo's gone, which is the main thing that was really bothering me. Oh, great to see that Pilar's here. I hadn't realised she said earlier she wasn't going to make it, so she's going to be here a bit.
Go on, let's start again so I can chicken out of editing it. So today we've got Judy on, and so Judy, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Well, what I suppose I'm mostly known for is being the co-author of a book called, let me reach for it. Oh, that one. A very pretty book called Clean Language, Revealing Metaphors and Opening Minds.
I'm going to resist the temptation to make jokes there, but we'll get to that in a minute.
But that book came out about 6 years ago, just before I met you in a dungeon in Euston. So that's what I'm mostly known for, and teaching clean language to coaches and agile coaches in particular worldwide, and applying clean language in all sorts of interesting ways. But what I'd like to be known for is something that's sprung from one of those applications of clean language, which is helping virtual teams to work better together, to collaborate more effectively. I sort of accidentally slid into working with virtual teams over the last 6-7 years because I was teaching this stuff, clean language, and I A, didn't want to, and B, couldn't get a room full of people together in London. You know, you just need too much. It just takes too much to get people together for that kind of thing. So I started teaching online using video conference. Well, originally it was phone conference and then video conference. And we started doing that online. And then one of my colleagues, Caitlin Walker, was using clean language to help teams work best together. And she said, oh, no, it can't possibly be done online. You know, you've got to have them in the same room. And that was sort of red rag to a bull time. So I figured out how to put Caitlin's stuff to work remotely. So now, if you've got teams that never meet, can't meet because they're at other ends of the earth, I help them work better together. Team building, if you like.
And I'm loving the online thing. So how is that going?
It's going amazingly in that when I get to work with a group, it's, you know, the first thing is when they actually use video conference. And for you and me, it seems straightforward that we do this kind of stuff on video all the time. But enormous numbers of people are really frightened of using video. And they end up just using audio conferencing, just using phone conferencing. Now, I started to unpick what it was that was going wrong with that. And if you've only got audio, it's really hard to concentrate. Whereas as long as you've got a video stream, you've got something else to focus on. You can focus on people's facial expressions, for example. You can see when people are nodding or smiling or whatever, or falling asleep or doing their emails. Over 50% of people admit to going to the lavatory during a phone conference.
I don't know. I'm smirking now. So
I think the number of people who've been for a pee during a phone conference is way over 50%. But you don't do that on a video conference, thank goodness, because you can be seen. So the first thing people do is they switch. I really have to persuade them to switch on video. But once they do, it's like turning on the lights in their office. It's as if they've been in an office with all these people they couldn't see, and the light comes on. They go, "Oh, you're ordinary. You're mere mortals. You're humans," and they just love it.
I always chicken out of the. I'm going to come clean here to everyone that's watching. I often say I'm just going to put the video off because of the Wi-Fi. And sometimes, particularly when I'm on a mobile, that is really true. Like when I'm walking around the Olympic Park, it's easier to have my coat on and just have a FaceTime audio or a Hangout. But I've already noticed how I'm paying more attention to you're just here, and it's not very often I do a video thing for that same reason. Because I've got this big screen in front of me, and I'm yeah, Judy, that's really good, thank you. So what I want to sort of pull out of you what collaboration is, because I'm always talking about collaboration, and we've done a couple of workshops together, and I've listened to your podcast, and we've podcasted together, which I've completely forgotten about. But how do you get people to understand collaboration? And kind of like the background to that question is, years ago, I was doing this breakfast meeting and said, we can find ways to collaborate together. And there was about 15 people in the room having breakfast, and they went, "Oh, not collaboration. Like I, made a bad joke or something." So what does, I didn't actually ask a question there, didn't I? I can see. So how do you explain collaboration to people?
Well, one of the things that's interesting, and one of the things that I'm teasing out in my Collaboration Dynamics podcast, is that collaboration seems to mean something completely different to everybody you talk to. One of the questions I always ask is, when you are collaborating at your best, you are like what? And we've had all sorts of answers to that question. The most common is, I'm like a conductor of an orchestra. 3 people answered that way out of 26. But other people say things, I'm like a cauldron bubbling with ideas. Or it's like I'm collaborating with 3 witches to create a recipe for a spell. Or it's like we're in a flock of birds, like one of those murmurations of starlings. So it varies widely what people think is collaboration. And then, of course, there are all the typically Eastern Europes who go, you can't use that word here.
Yeah,
Europeans say, don't use the word collaboration. Or my husband, who says collaboration, it's not just for the French. You'll have to edit that bit out.
On spot, but we have that for the we have that in WeShare, because it's it's got a massively different meaning. So what's the, because I like the kind of unlocking the potential side of collaboration, and then there's people that are going to and I'm lucky enough to be in that co-working, hugging place. But what's the business case? How would you make the case for collaboration to the hard-nosed financial director or Alan Sugar?
Well, I think the research is absolutely rock solid now. There's a fabulous book called Collective Genius by a team led by Linda Hill at Harvard Business School. She's gone into some of the most successful businesses in the world and examined what it is that make those firms successful. So she's looked at people like Pixar, Google, and a couple of other big tech companies in India, and looked at what are the structures that they put in place to make sure that everybody. So there's a quote that I love, which is, "None of us is as smart as all of us."
Mm-hmm.
And that has to be true in business as everywhere. That when you lock yourself down and curl and make yourself small, you can pretend to be successful, but basically it comes down to bullshit. If I'm small and I'm successful, and it's because I'm not actually comparing myself with anybody. I'm not clashing with anybody. I'm not connecting with anybody. I'm not making anything from the interaction with other people. It takes it takes a lot of courage to go, right, here I am. I'm showing up. I'm doing my best to show up as an authentic human being and speak up for what I believe in. But when you do, that gives you this opportunity to stand on the shoulders of giants, because you're able to pick up ideas from everywhere around and then, make something from them. All the best ideas are actually combinations of other people's ideas, which have been tested and then test, get feedback, think about it, then test it again. Go out there, try. And of course, the other relationship is, have you looked into Dave Snowden's stuff, the Cynefin model?
No, but I've heard of it definitely from Neil, but
yeah. So Snowden with an E, and he has this lovely way of thinking about, well, what kind of situation are we in? Is this simple? Is it complicated? Is it complex? Or is it chaotic? Now, when something is simple, all you have to do is just follow the instructions. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. So your really oversimplified franchise model business sticks in the simple category. Increasingly, businesses were, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, complicated beings. That if only you knew more, then you would be able to understand what was going on. In the last 10 years or so, everybody has flipped over to working in a complex situation. The role of the internet and all the interconnections that are made there make the things so complex that you can't hope to ever understand the whole thing. And Snowden says the way to make decisions in that complex domain is go out and try something. Test it, get feedback, try it again. Test it, get feedback, try it again. Now, that kind of test, feedback, try thing is, for that, you need other people. You can't test it unless you have other people to play with.
So even like testing is collaboration.
Testing is collaboration. This is a collaboration, isn't it? I mean, at a very simple level, you said, right, Judy, come and do a blab. And I'm going,
we'll see if we survive.
See if we survive. And I've got no idea whether anybody can hear it. I think I know that Pilar would have told us she couldn't hear a word. So,
yep. Hello, Chelsea. Thanks for joining. Oh, she can hear you. What? It's gone. It was nearly there. Pregnant pause. So there's something about the test, the perfect thing, because as I was listening to you, people. Sorry, I'm going to say people. Like I don't know who taught me this, but everything has to be perfect before it goes out, and it's taken me a lot of courage over the last few years to just go bollocks. I'm going to throw that out there, but that's where the learnings come from, and I think I've learned more from actually pressing publish on stuff that's rubbish and gaining my own momentum. If you want a real look at this, go and look at some of my periscopes from the last few weeks. But 50 periscopes later, and I'm just, some of them are absolute car crashes, but some of them I've been awake for a minute because I made this commitment to periscope at 6:30 in the morning. But I've definitely grown as a result of it. I sense this fear of collaboration when I'm working with people, and it's the putting stuff out there, it's the shipping and all that kind of thing. So have you got a cure for that we can sort out in 5 minutes?
I don't know whether I've got a cure, but I've got my own story of something similar.
That's it, better.
Yeah, so the woman I used to work with, Wendy Sullivan, who is my co-author in this book, she and I did as deep a collaboration, as it's reasonable to do with a business partner, in that we went into business together and we were working full time together in the same space, trying to produce results. Now, she was, I don't think it would be controversial to say, she still is a perfectionist. She likes things to be exactly so. I would say that I'm an imperfectionist. Even before that, I was working on news media, so I was creating something that was always going to be tomorrow's chip paper. So we were working together and we were supposed to be doing this big business thing together, and it wasn't working. But because the agreement was that we would work together, we would be 40 hours a week in the same place, we would aim for this and aim for that and aim for the other. When we finally admitted it wasn't working, it was a huge, horrendous row, of the sort of business divorce writ extremely large thing. And it took me ages to get over that and realize that actually there are much smaller scale ways to collaborate. And what counts as a collaboration varies from person to person. So you can't really legislate for the size of the thing. What suits me at the moment is small scale collaborations that stay sort of live and flexible, and where from week to week I can say, is this working or is it not working? Having said that, one has to make commitments or nothing happens. So one of the projects I'm working on at the moment, which is how I've come to meet Pilar, is that we're both involved in the RSA Reinventing Work Network. Now, that required me to make a commitment to say, I will give it my best shot. At very least, I will set up 3 monthly meetings between the end of the summer and this coming Christmas. 2 of them have now happened. So I'm, now I can decide, do I want to continue? Do I want to, this kind of thing. So you have to make some commitments, but they don't have to be enormous.
And what's with the commitment thing? How has the running an online business? Now you're an internet entrepreneur. Now you're running an online business. How's that influenced your life or your your headspace? Is what I'm looking for. Because you don't have to show up in a room and do stuff. You just have to sit in your little office there and. Yeah.
These days, I do often turn up in a room and do stuff, interestingly enough, even though that wouldn't be my personal preference. And I'm not going to let the whole you run an online business thing go past without saying, thanks to you, at least in part, I no longer claim that I'm an internet entrepreneur. I say I'm a freelance.
A freelancer. I'm very proud of that. As soon as I was able to retitle that, because I didn't want to be I'm an internet entrepreneur and come and look at me with my laptop on the beach. So thank you very much. That's really good to hear that.
And I think the point you made in that blog post is really, really important, that actually if it relates to this whole collaboration thing. If we are busy trying to look bigger than we are, the chances are we're actually hiding in a little corner and trying to force ourselves to look big. And that discourages people from approaching us to say, actually, shall we see if we can do something together?
Yep.
If we're not out there bullshitting, if we're actually out there being ourselves and authentically as we really can, we're probably more approachable. The Brene Brown TED talk about vulnerability
we love her.
Relates to this. If we don't have to, I don't have to be as vulnerable as you were. I didn't do my test video with no shirt on, but
I didn't realise that was published. I've got a really hairy back as well. I would expect more. I would expect more internet trolls without my shirt on. But anyway.
Yeah, so we don't all have to be as vulnerable as each other. It's still online, Pilar. If you go and search for it, you can find it.
There's worse things than that online.
Yeah, so we don't all have to choose the same level of vulnerability, but the more I find that the more vulnerable I'm willing to be, the more people are willing to come to me and say, "Oh, I wonder if you would like to talk about this project, that project, or the other project."
It is massively more interesting over the last couple of years. Like all the people that show up on my podcast are like that, and I'm trying to think of another word. It's really, really, really interesting. I've learned more from vulnerable people and people making up as to go along than I have from I know it all together. I have it all organised. And as I always say, if you ever catch me pretending like I have it all organised, you can take me out and beat me up. Well, how have you? I want to ask you another online learning question. So, have you learned anything? What have you learned from teaching online and collaborating with remote teams in terms of what you knew already?
Ooh. What have I learned in terms of what I knew already? Well, I've learned enormous amounts. I would never have dreamed that huge internet, huge tech companies, which have got sales teams, and sales support teams that are whose job it is to sell stuff. They had all the technology in place to do video calls, but they were all too terrified to use it.
Even though they work together?
Yeah, they wouldn't use it with each other, and they wouldn't suggest their customers used it. Wow. Because they had to be perfect before they could use it. The internal culture of this large organization was that, you didn't do it unless you could be really, really good. Now, what that ended up doing was putting them in this sort of I am the great I am kind of position, pontificating about their product. Whereas when they already knew this, and when they're talking one-to-one with people, and when they were talking face-to-face with people, the first thing they want to do is ask loads of questions about the customer's business and figure out, well, how would this customer use this product in this circumstance? But they would get themselves on these horrible webinars where all they would do would bang on and on and on about these products.
I've run those.
So this whole idea of vulnerability and imperfection and being willing to get out of your comfort zone doesn't just apply to freelancers like us. It actually applies to enormous organizations. And that's one of the reasons that enormous organizations are really struggling at the moment. The future seems to belong to the freelancer.
Yep.
The future belongs to small and light-footed organizations.
Agile organizations.
Agile organizations. Having said that, and this is an area that I'm very, very excited by at the moment, is when all that's happening, what happens to leadership? Because leaders don't have, if people are leading virtual teams, and, there has to be vulnerability, there has to be imperfection, there has to be trying things out and experimenting and all that kind of thing. What's the leader supposed to be? What are they supposed to be doing? And my best answer to that at the moment is they have to be creating an atmosphere, an environment where vulnerability and experimentation are safe and appropriate and sensible.
I'm looking into that at the moment. So developed it. Echo. Let it go along. I'm going to wait and see if it goes away. And it did. Good. So, like with the We Share London team, who you met a couple of years ago at your main yard, I wouldn't say I put myself, but I thought, how could I organise? What part can I play in this? Is what I mean. And so I didn't want to be like manager or operations director or team leader. So I've read a few books about Scrum. So I thought I'm going to be like the Scrum master, because it makes me laugh and feel cool. But also it means that I'm not in no way telling people what to do. And I set myself a little challenge of asking people questions instead of saying, I think you should do this, which only half worked. But it's amazing how many times you tell people to do things when really you could have asked a question. So now with Baby Bernie and those, I'm trying to only ask questions. And it was actually really, really energizing because I had to think rather than just go, brrr. But I'm hoping to evolve that. And that's one of the reasons I'm really interested in the Agile thing. And in WeShare, it's a horizontal organization. And you keep getting, there's people who have ego in there, but there's no people who are, egomaniacs in there, because they're committed to a horizontal organization. But it's really hard to catch yourself being over gregarious when you want to be horizontal, however you say it. So that's something I'm really interested in too. To learn how to do that actually is
and going back to the whole clean language thing, in clean language we have a particular way of asking questions which is intended to be non-judgmental, which is intended to be minimal presuppositions, and learning those kind of questions I think can help people to realize you can take a joking example. So if you were to say, I've forgotten how old Baby Bernie is now, but if you were to say something like, no, I know I met him, he was not very big. So if you were to say to him something like, I wonder if you've considered tying your shoelaces before going out of the house, that's quite a directive style of question. It's still a question. But really the kind of questions that help people to think about, I wonder why is it that we're wearing shoelaces in the first place? And what's it, what do those shoelaces do? Yeah.
What does it mean?
What does it all mean?
I try to ask him what to do with, and it's going really well, but it's like, it's very easy to go, put your bloody coat on. But it's even harder to say, what would you like to do first? Put your coat on or your shoes?
Again, down.
Pardon?
It's those questions are not designed to help open up his thinking. They're designed to get him to put his coat and shoes on.
Yeah. They are, which is what I'm trying not to do. And
yet you have to. I mean, this is the whole leadership thing, isn't it? Because you're a parent. This is a situation you can't allow your child to go out without coat and shoes in the winter in London. It's not okay. And yet, at some level, you're looking to allow him the freedom.
Sorry, Pilar, we're talking about shoes, not trainers. But we're definitely going to come back and do this again. Have you heard of a school called Summerhill?
Yes.
So, and I'll put a link in the show notes, guys. Otherwise, I'll go on my long, lengthy explanation of this. So Summerhill School was a self-governing school, so people had choices. They had to make their own decision, and that governs a lot of how governs. How easily that slipped into.
Isn't it funny?
I try and now I'm lost for words. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to adopt with Baby Bernie. So, and it is definitely more challenging. But for him to say, what would you like to say to him? What's next? What would you like to do? And it definitely takes more effort, but it's worth it in the end. Yes. So far. So where can we? I'm going to slice in there because it's time to go. But we will be back, Judy. Where's the best place to find you online, and what can we look for? And when's your next RSA event?
Best place to find me online is xraylistening.com. On there, you can sign up for my newsletter, which will, amongst other things, announce any of these RSA Reinventing Work events that happen. Podcast is Collaboration Dynamics. Mm-hmm. Again, you can find that on X-Ray Listening, and it's on Apple and on iTunes and Stitcher. And the next RSA event is the 1st of December in London. If anyone wants to know about that and they can't find the event, if you search Eventbrite for RSA Reinventing Work, you should be able to find that one.
And I'll stick a link in the show notes as well. Down
here.
Yeah.
It's free to come, but if you sign up, please come, because if you sign up and you don't come, then you'll be blocking somebody else.
And what is what is going to be in that event?
Well, Pilar and me, amongst other things. So we're going to be talking about leadership in self-managed organisations.
Pilar's just jumped in as well. I was trying to work out how to add her in. Sorry. Hello.
Hello. I just wanted to show Judy this really cool feature.
That anybody can jump in.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So that's it. I have to go, but I just wanted to show you Bernie, I was telling Judy that this would be a really nice thing to do for this network at some point.
This is a really cool thing.
Yeah.
I'm all over Blab.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'd looked at it once and thought I don't understand this, and then given up. But now I'm sold. Yes. You've convinced me.
All right. I'll see you later, both.
Hasta luego. Ciao.
Yes. Bye. Yeah, so Pilar and I will be cooking up this meeting. Amongst the other speakers will be Mark McCurgo, who, have you bumped into Mark along the way? Really brilliant bloke. He was the co-author of a book called The Solutions Focus, which came out probably 15 years ago now, about using solutions-focused methodologies in business change, which was a brilliant book. Nowadays, his theme of his stuff is host leadership. So a metaphor for the leader as the host of an event or an organisation. So he's got lots of interesting things to say. He's also involved with the Sunday Assembly movement, which is another interesting gang of people. No, he's quite a big bloke.
Yeah.
You'll find him.
I haven't been to the Sunday Assembly, but I like the vibe.
Yeah.
I feel like I should be going to the Sunday Assembly and then going to the School of Life near Russell Square Tube, wherever it is, just for my Alanda Bottom's place, isn't it?
Interesting stuff. Yeah. So me, Pilar, Mark, and loads of interesting people. One of the first two meetings of this RSA thing, everybody's saying, they've never met so many interesting people in one space before.
Well, they've never been to one of my events.
They've obviously never been to one of your events, but in your events, there would still be the occasional person standing at the bar handing out their business cards.
Yep.
I met not everybody, but there was always one or two. In the RSA events, so far, we seem to have completely not got any of them. And it's very exciting when you go into a room and you can just start to assume that everybody there is going to be brilliant, and they are.
Oh, that's a good place to live, because I've got loads of silly jokes coming. But
yeah,
send us that link and I'll put it in the show notes. And I'll be come and say hello at Work Hub soon.
Yes, and thank you very much for inviting me to do this, because otherwise I wouldn't have known how it all worked.
If you need any tips, go to Pilar, because she knows and I don't. I texted her last night actually and said, "Do you know how to do this in Blab?" Okay, have a great weekend. Is it a weekend?
Thank you.
Great week.
No,
sorry.
Great week.